Hi, welcome to Rock and Metal Invasion. My name is Steve. Coming up on the show today, I'm doing the Big Four. Now, when we talk about the Big Four, most of us probably think about thrash bands, Metallica, Megadeth, Slayer, and Anthrax. But I noticed recently on Brendan Snyder's channel, he did what he called the Big Four of glam metal. And they had a good chat debating, what would be the Big Four of what they call glam metal. I made a little comment saying I sort of prefer the term hair metal, and that hair metal was basically hard rock bands from the time of 1983 to about 1992. Either way, I thought it's an interesting idea. So a big four, not just of thrash, could we do a big four of other genres, if you want to call them, although of course hair metal is not really a genre, but other types of metal or hard rock or rock music, could we put those into a big four category? And of course, as you know, if you watch this channel, hair metal, glam metal, hard rock, whatever you want to call it, definitely is one of my big musical interests. So I thought, well, what would be my big four of hair metal? And I thought, well, let's actually time travel. Let's go back to 1992. It's April 1992, and we're going to have one of the greatest concert events of all time. It's called the Big Four. And not only one day is going to be the Big Four of thrash, so one day you're going to have Metallica, Megadeth, Anthrax, and Slayer. But then we're also going to have a hair metal day, or what, of course, because remember, this is 1992. This is April 1992, and no one's calling it hair metal, right? So let's call it Hard Rock Day. So Hard Rock Day, my Big Four. Now, when I'm talking about Big Four, and I'm not really too sure, when Brendan was talking about it on his channel, I'm not really too sure if he was saying, is the Big Four based on album sales, how influential they were. Maybe it's a combination of all those things. I'm looking at popularity, album sales, and just I guess how they are perceived at the time as far as being a big band. And certainly now, when you look back on it, definitely these are big bands. So my big four for what I'm going to just call hard rock, but I think you could also now, retrospectively, you'd call it. It could be called hair metal day. My big four for hard rock is going to be. Now, what's also interesting is, well, when you've got a hard rock day like this, and you've got four massive bands, who's going to headline? So that was kind of interesting too. So who's the headline band? So it wasn't easy, but I decided, and I don't know how this is going to work out with the bands, right? But I decided in 1992, I specified the month as well, for reasons that I'll get into very soon. It's April 1992. Maybe the first day was thrash, Big Four thrash, done that. Next day, day two, it's Big Four of hard rock. Now, the headlining band for me is going to be Guns N' Roses. So that's obviously a very popular band. They're really huge in 1992. They've just released Use Your Illusion 1 and 2 at the end of 91. And of course, Appetite for Destruction's blown up big time, right? So and they're a huge band at this time. So for me, they're the headline act. Now, Bon Jovi would then be the next in line. So Bon Jovi, I think they'd probably accept that because I think, they were huge around 86, through to, the late 80s, really. New Jersey, of course. But this is after Keep the Faith has been released, and they're definitely not as big as what they had been. So I think I'd put Bon Jovi in next. And, you'd probably say maybe my third band is even more popular than Bon Jovi at this particular time. Their sort of sales haven't started to drop yet, but this is Def Leppard. And they've only just released, this is 1992, they've only just released Adrenalize, which actually ends up doing pretty good for them, considering it's not a great album, and it's 1992. But of course, they're still really riding the success of Hysteria, which was such a massive album. I mean, Hysteria and Pyromania, both diamond-selling albums. So, obviously, they've got to be in your Big Four. For me, they've got to be. Remember, we're talking Big Four hard rock, a.k.a. hair metal, 83 to 92. So Def Leppard. And then I guess this is really my fourth band. And this is a difficult one because you'd think, a lot of people would say, shouldn't this be your headline act? I mean, these guys are legends. But I'm talking about sort of popularity and album sales at the time. They don't have the original lineup. So my fourth band, and believe it or not, they're opening up the day, would be Van Halen. But I mean, it's still, I mean, as I say, you're cutting it down to just four bands. So that's who I'd have opening up. And, they've just released FUCK. They've got Sammy Hagar now, of course, as their vocalist, and that's a great album. And it does pretty well too. But yeah, so that's my big four for hard rock: Guns N' Roses, Bon Jovi, Def Leppard, and Van Halen. And the order is a bit debatable and probably not that important. I'd have I'd have sympathy for anyone who had to sort of try and navigate that situation. Okay, you guys are opening, but if you could work that out, great. And it's even going to get more complicated because the next day is heavy metal day, and there's going to be band drama, I'm sure, for this one as well. So what I was thinking again, we're time traveling. This is April 1992, so I'm doing this as it happens, right, in real time. So this is April 1992. Like, obviously, there's lots of, I could say, if I was saying the big four of heavy metal, well, yeah, Black Sabbath, but it would be the Ozzy Osbourne fronted Black Sabbath. But that's not realistic because that wasn't happening in 1992. Now, my big four of heavy metal would include Black Sabbath, but it would be in 1992, it was fronted by Ronnie James Dio. So they had just put out their sort of reunion album, the Dehumanizer. They got back together with Ronnie because it doesn't really work out. The album doesn't, it wasn't really a massive hit or anything. So they don't really stick around for long, but they were together at this point, around this time. Dehumanizer was just about to come out. Maybe, yeah, I don't think it quite come. It was probably just coming out around about this time. So, so I think, the issue we're going to have here though is, okay, it's heavy metal day. So my big four, yeah, Black Sabbath, one of them, but they're not the headline act. Believe it or not, and again, this is probably going to cause problems. My headline act would be Ozzy Osbourne. So for heavy metal day, Ozzy Osbourne would be opening up. Not opening up, would be my headline act. So that'd be my headline act. Then I'd have Judas Priest. Now, Judas Priest in 1992, they basically we're only a month away from Rob Halford quitting, right? So I'd even try and, if you could, organize it so that Rob Halford's actually about to resign as the vocalist. This is his last performance. It's sort of acknowledged, and this is like a celebration. The final Judas Priest concert with Rob Halford. So he's kind of going to go out, doing this one last concert, sort of like what Bruce Dickinson does about a year later, right? So he does his last concert in, I think, 93, and it's televised, there's video footage of it and everything like that. There's a DVD and everything of his last performance. In fact, in that final performance that Bruce Dickinson does, he even gets his head chopped off, like a bit of a staged sort of a show thing, which I thought was pretty funny. But anyway, so that's from 93, but we're 92. So, that could be one, if it was possible, that could be one way you could sort of really heighten the excitement and anticipation for Judas Priest performing their last show with Rob Halford. So yeah, I mean, Painkillers, great album, critically acclaimed, but it wasn't actually a big success for them. So, but I think you could have them second. So Ozzy headline, Judas Priest final Rob Halford performance. Of course, he does come back later, but so does Bruce Dickinson, of course. So Judas Priest second, and then third, Black Sabbath with Dio. Now I'm not sure. As I said, whoever's going to try and organize these bands and tell them who's coming on when and where. I don't know how successful they're going to be, because you can imagine, Dio. He's probably not going to be too happy that he is sort of seen as supporting Ozzy Osbourne. In fact, Black Sabbath were going to, on the Ozzy Osbourne tour, I think it was, they were going to be a support band for Ozzy. And I think even maybe that, as it was one of his, because Ozzy was supposedly on one of his No More Tours tour then, and it was about to call it quits supposedly. But so, Black Sabbath were invited to play with Ozzy. Dio didn't want to do it, so they actually ended up getting Rob Halford to come in and sing Black Sabbath songs, which is crazy, eh? But so that happened. So I can imagine if this is a fantasy situation, I can actually imagine this not happening. I can imagine, Black Sabbath or not doing it, or Dio telling Black Sabbath, I'm not going to do it. But we don't know for sure. So maybe they would do it. If they would, then they'd be on the heavy metal day. That'd be third, and then opening up a band I already talked about, Iron Maiden. So my big four for heavy metal on heavy metal day would be headline act Ozzy Osbourne, Judas Priest, Black Sabbath with Dio, and then opening act Iron Maiden. So, I mean, what a concert this would be. It would be a 5-day concert. So we've had 3 days so far. You've had your thrash day, you've had your hard rock day, heavy metal day. Day number 4, I would actually go for an alternative day, because as I said when I was doing my top 10 from 1992, in 1992 you've got these kind of worlds colliding, right, where alternative rock's starting to come in now. And there's a lot of big bands. Well, they're not big yet, but they're about to really blow up. But a lot of these bands now are releasing their debut albums, or even in some cases their second album, but are now getting some success. So for my alternative, I don't know if that's the right word to use it. You could call it Grunge Day. Again, now grunge was used at the time, but I think it's become more popular over time. I'm not sure if you would call it Grunge Day in 1992, maybe Alternative Day, maybe New Rock Day. I don't know, whatever you might want to use as the term. But my big four of sort of what you might call new bands, alternative rock bands, grunge bands in 1992 around April would be the headline act. This is a tricky one. Who would headline? But I'm going to go with Pearl Jam. Yeah, it was a tight one between them and Nirvana, but I think Pearl Jam had more mainstream, perhaps, popularity at about that stage. But they came out fairly similar time in 1991. So Pearl Jam headlining, they were huge. They were really huge around that time. Certainly, they got even bigger. The next album, Versus, was massive. Of course, Nirvana also massive as well. Of course, they didn't manage to retain that because, sadly, Kurt Cobain is no longer with us. In fact, of my big four, this is the sad state of affairs here, is that of my four bands that I chose, all the lead singers of these bands have now passed away, apart from Pearl Jam. So, anyway, so Nirvana would be second after Pearl Jam. You can probably guess the other two, Alice in Chains and Soundgarden. So that would be my sort of alternative rock, grunge day, whatever you want to call it. Awesome, that'd be a great concert. And then finally, I would end with what I'm going to call the Legends Day. So the Legends Day, basically because we've got some massive bands playing on this concert, and if you're going to really make this the concert event to end all concert events, then you've got to have these bands on here somehow. So I thought, okay, well, let's call this one Legends Day, and we'll have headlining AC/DC. Then you'd have Alice Cooper, Aerosmith, and then opening, believe it or not, opening, because they're not on the makeup at this particular moment in time. They've had some platinum selling albums through the 80s, but I mean, that's basically it. They might have gone gold or platinum. They haven't had the success they had in the 70s. So, Kiss would be opening up, but that would be a great day as well, right? So a lot of these bands, especially AC/DC, Alice Cooper's just made a great comeback. Aerosmith are doing really well also. So, that would be, I think that would be a great way to sort of end off the 5-day, Dream Music Festival, the big four, and each day 4 bands that fit the category are playing. So, I just thought, this would be that time period would be great. You could actually put it off. Every band, I think, on there would be amazing. And, as I say, whether you could actually pull that off in 1992, and of course I'm doing it retrospectively, is another thing altogether. But, and it all just came from basically thinking about the big four, and as far as hair metal is concerned, but then applying that to other sort of, categories of hard rock and heavy metal. Now, there are a couple of bands, well, actually, there were 3 bands that I had thought about considering that didn't quite fit in there. Pantera was one, because I think in 1992, they're just about to really blow up big time with Vulgar Display of Power. but it's not. They're not quite there yet. So that took a year or two for them to really become huge. Otherwise, they'd be a perfect fit for the metal day. I guess you could have put them in on the sort of what you might call the new rock day, but again, it's more of a grunge band sort of day, isn't it? So yeah, so no Pantera, no Motley Crue, because basically they might be, as far as the hard rock day, they might be. It's a big four. They may have made number five, but yeah, it's got to be big four. Also in '92, things aren't going well with them and Vince, so yeah, probably not going to work out so good. And another band that's really unlucky to miss out, Skid Row. In fact, because they could really have gone in on the hard rock, or they could have gone in on the metal day as well, because Slave to the Grind, they've got a lot heavier. Probably a lot of people would say that's more of a metal album, so they possibly could have been on metal day. But again, that's only their second album. And a lot of those bands that they're playing there with, Ozzy, Judas Priest, or Black Sabbath, Iron Maiden. I mean, they're all just, they're almost they could have almost been in the legendary category as well. So, yeah, so they miss out. I'd probably keep them in reserve though, in case there's some, as there most likely would be, some bust up between who knows who. GNR might pull out because they're, get in a fight with who knows who, and Axel has a hissy fit, or whatever. Or as I said, Black Sabbath and Ozzy, there might be some issues there. But yeah, so there we go. So it's my big four. 5 days of my big four. So thrash, hard rock, heavy metal day, new rock or grunge day, alternative rock day, what do you want to call it? And then finishing with Legends Day. And yeah, what a concert that would be. But it never happened, of course. It's all just something from my imagination. But that's what I've come up with. What do you think? If you had a big four for hard rock, for heavy metal, for grunge, for basically for legendary bands, and you were basing it on that time period, who would you choose? In a lot of ways, I don't even know if that would change that much now. If we were going to do that now and judging it now, what difference would it make? I mean, obviously, you could argue, well, what about, Led Zeppelin? Sure, absolutely. So, Deep Purple. I mean, yeah, I understand, there are perhaps some bands there that should be on there. But when I'm only narrowing it down to four, and I'm putting it down to a certain time period, that's what I've come up with. So let me know what you think. All right. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you later.